Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Yep. Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USA Prepares. Thank you for being with us today. We broadcast 2 hours from high atop the Missouri Ozark Mountains. Call in line if you'd like to call us. We'll pay for the call. 866-582-9933. Telephone listen line is up, 605-477-3249. John is engineering the broadcast at GCN in Minnesota. I'm Vincent Finelli. With us today, Charles in Ohio. We're going to be talking about automobile efficiency. Welcome, Charles.
Season's greetings. I'm glad to be with you.
Yeah, thank you so much for being with us, Charles in Ohio. And also, Don O'Leary has called in, and he's in North Carolina. Welcome, Don.
Well, thank you, Benny. I love your show.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being with us. I have a multi-page letter. I think it's about 6 pages that I printed from you, and you're going to share with us the Twilight Zone episode of new appliances. And I've been talking about how miserable they are and how awful it would be to be an appliance salesman selling washers and dryers in the United States because of, well, what they're relegated to sell. It's not what the customers want. The customers are furious. And it happened to you firsthand.
Oh, yeah. It happened to me, all right.
Yeah, tell us what happened, please.
Well, we had an old Whirlpool set, washers and dryers. I always like Whirlpool because they're so easy to maintain, so easy to work on, and they're so durable and reliable. So we've had them about 16 years, and, transmission went out on a washer. I mean, I've maintained these over the years. It's no big deal. Things here, things there. And I figured, well, instead of changing the transmission, my wife wanted a new washer and dryer set. It's like, that sounds like a reasonable thing to do. Well, it used to be a reasonable thing to do. So we went out to the big box stores and looked around, and finally we went to Lowe's and said, okay, we went and got a set of Maytag. And one was a floor model, so we got a good deal on it. So we had them delivered. They carted our old stuff away, which was a big mistake. And we had a load of laundry to wash, and we were happy to get started. Well, we got started, and the thing made a bunch of noise and sounded like a cement mixer, and turned out to be a bad transmission, brand new. So I called Lowe's, and okay, we'll send you another one out tomorrow. So they sent this one out the next day, and we were happy, and we fired it up, and it worked, but it never had a proper spin cycle. All right, so anyway, we ended up spending a fortune using a dryer because it would never spin the clothes enough to get all the water out. Anyway, that one lasted about 5 months. So, and then it died. So we called Lowe's again, and we returned them. So anyway, then we said, okay, let's look at we had the Whirlpools for 16 years, so we went out and got a set of Whirlpool. We made sure we had the ones with the agitators because we know for a fact that the ones without the agitators don't work at all. So anyway, they deliver those. And that one lasted, I think that one lasted about a week, 16 days, something like that. Anyway, that one died, and it just had some lights on there. So it's like, all right, so of course I'm cussing like a banshee at this point. and, using definitely things you wouldn't want to say in decent society. So Lowe's has been really good about it. I guess they have this problem on a regular basis. So anyway, let's get a set of GE. So we went out and we returned these, and we got a set of GE. So we have another week's worth of clothes to wash, so we're happy to be able to wash our clothes. So they deliver them. We fire up a load of clothes. Next thing you know, it's doing a dance. The washing machine is doing a dance like it's a ballroom in our laundry room. It's like, what's going on here? Well, what it was doing was it would fill up just enough water to wet the clothes, and then when it went into a spin cycle or a agitation cycle, they were all bunched up, so it was like a vibrator, a giant one, going all over the room. Anyway, so first thing I did was I called GE, and they said they'd send somebody out. But in the meantime, I looked up on the internet and figured, well, what's going on here? It must be the pressure switch. Okay, it's not getting enough water in there, so the fix for this, the workaround, was to put water in there first, weigh it down, and then start the cycle so it puts more water in, because the nanny state determines how much water is put in there. So that was the workaround. We were able to sort of wash our clothes for about a week. So anyway, the guy comes over from GE, and he's wearing a nice, clean, navy blue GE suit with the GE logo. Real nice guy. And he comes in, and he hooks his laptop up to the back of the washing machine, and he says, "You have a well, don't you?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Oh, this won't work here." I said, "What do you mean? Can't you adjust the pressure switch?" He says, "No. This model doesn't have a pressure switch. They cut it out of the design, and they wanted to go completely electronic. So it'll run for 6 minutes, and whatever water you have there afterwards, that's it. That's all the water you're going to get." So it's like, you got to be kidding me. So anyway, so we couldn't use those, and I wasn't about to build a water tower in my backyard to have enough pressure. So, at this point, I was nice. I didn't shoot him. I didn't shoot the messenger. So anyway, at this point, after he left, I think I was cussing in tongues at this point. Okay, I was really, I was agitated like you wouldn't believe. So we decided, okay, that's it. We're going to get a used set. So we went out and bought a 13-year-old set that works absolutely perfectly fine. I spent more than I wanted to. I spent about $500 on the used set because we didn't have time to go looking around for a fixer-upper. We wanted to get our wash done. And these came with a year warranty. They've been working perfectly fine ever since. And it turns out the only washing machine you can buy that's going to be durable would be a Speed Clean, because they happen to make the commercial things for laundromats, and they incorporate that into their consumer stuff. In other words, they're building them like the other companies used to build them. So you can't go out and buy a washer and dryer anymore. Everything's garbage. Everything's crap that you're going to buy out of these stores anymore. It's frustrating.
Don, as you were saying this, a couple things came to mind. One is I felt this was coming many years ago, and I bought a couple sets of washers and dryers. And back then they were $50 for a washer, $50 for a dryer. If you want them to match. We don't need a dryer, but I bought them, right. And I've got them stored. I've got them covered with tarps, and they're ready to go whenever we need them. So we have multiple sets because I knew this was coming. I felt it coming. Now, the ones that you bought, were they computer controlled? Did they have some kind of a computer display on them that you could see?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can't advance the cycles. You can't do anything with them, yeah.
Okay.
At least with the old ones, with the mechanical switch, you could advance the cycle. Mm-hmm. And let's say even the motor went bad in the mechanical switch, you could always do it manually.
Right. Now, I looked up while you were describing this. I looked up the price of a transmission on eBay. So I just typed in Whirlpool washer transmission, and you can buy them used for $48, $57, $66 right now if you wanted one. Now, had you done that, do you think you would have been happy had you bought one of those?
Oh yeah, probably should be still working.
Mm-hmm. Well, ours, I think.
Yeah. In
Sam's Club used to sell.
In hindsight, I should have never got rid of it, and if I could have fixed it, yeah.
Okay. And why did you get rid of it? Because it was easy to have them haul it away, and you were done with it because you got this brand new set. Was that the plan?
Well, no. I wasn't expecting to be this cheap and cheapified. And let's take the GE for instance. If they cut out the pressure switch, which determines how much water goes into a load, what else are they skipping on? The bean counters, the GE has gone crazy.
Yes, so, I'm blaming all of this, all of the things that we're seeing. Sears, General Motors, Ford, all of the problems that we have with our vehicles and our equipment and our appliances, things we buy on the bean counters. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well,
it's not only the bean counters. The problem is the fiat currency is getting to where it's gotten so worthless. They're trying to sell something at the same price with this worthless fiat currency, so they're cheapifying everything, so the public doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah, if you want to see what Don's talking about, just feel the weight of a dishwasher. Feel the weight of a current washing machine. They've gotten much, much lighter. And my understanding is that you have to use...
Vince, the guy in the truck picked up a washing machine all by himself. Could you have done that 10 years ago? And this was just an average guy.
No.
Yeah.
No. It takes two of us. It takes two of us to put one on a hand truck, an older one, to put it on a hand truck to wheel it because, if you don't want to scratch it and bang it up, it takes two people to, carefully get it tilted. Yes, you're right.
They carried it in the house.
Mm-hmm. Charles, what do you think about this? Does this all make sense to you?
Well, from the point of view of the consumer, no, but from the point of view of the producers, I think they know. I think they do lots of studies and see what's coming in the future, and they're steering the public toward what they want us to have.
Well, all right, so the next question. Why would you have to have a computer connection on the back of a washing machine for diagnosis? I mean, seriously, if it didn't advance, it could be the old-fashioned mechanical timer. If the motor didn't turn, it was probably the motor or the capacitor. If the transmission stripped, it was either the coupling or the transmission. If it didn't fill properly, it was the fill switch or the solenoid to engage the flow valves. It was really simple to fix these things.
Exactly. I mean, it's what he already stated. That, I mean, it relates to me back quickly, where a lot of people want. Well, I guess we can have a break right now.
Okay. Charles in Ohio is with us, and I just want to mention why we talked about washing machines today in a topic of automobiles and efficiency. Because it is so complex. Class, I want you to think about that. To have your washing machine serviced, a factory service technician comes out with a computer to diagnose your washing machine. Really. In my hands, I'm holding a book. It's a Motor Books Workshop book. It was sent to me by Rodney and Wendy Walls in Missouri. They're in our class, and they thought I needed this book, and yeah, I really do. It's called How to Tune and Modify Engine Management Systems. This thing is a sophisticated book on how the engine management system works on a car. Not how the valves work, not how the crankshaft works, the engine management computer system. 271 pages, tiny print. And I need this. I have determined that I am not going to give up on that POS Ford Escape. I can't get that thing to run more than a few seconds, but I'm not going to give up. I am not going to let that thing beat me. I hate it. I hate that particular vehicle. And the more I look at Fords, the less I like them. Seriously. Ford has, with their accountants, I think they've done a wonderful job of taking metal out of vehicles, making them cheesy and unrepairable. This is the last Ford that I plan on working on. I really can't stand them. Charles, are you seeing the same thing in automobiles that I'm seeing?
Absolutely. I go to my friend who does quite a bit of work constantly on newer vehicles, and every time I speak to him, he gives me new horror stories about how the manufacturing process and what they're doing, and like you say, removing metal. You could used to take older transmission in older cars, and you could replace a race or a bearing in a transmission case, and it'd be good for another 250,000 miles. But now the cases are so thin, you don't have that option available anymore. Once they wear out the case, they no longer put a bearing or bushing in there. They just use the case as the wear surface. Then it's time to discard it and get a whole new unit.
What you're saying is there's the bearing and there's the race. And you're saying that, think of it like needle bearings, class. So the needle bearings would be there would be an assembly where there's a very hard surface that the bearings that move they would ride on a hard surface. And if it wore out, you would take out the whole bearing assembly, the bearing and the race, pop in a new one, and you're good to go. But what they've done is they've eliminated half of the bearing. They've replaced the wear surface with just the case of the transmission or the case of the transfer case. So now, when you do have some wear in there, you cannot replace the bearing because there's so much wear on the case that you have to replace the case, which really means you have to get a new transmission or transfer case. You are absolutely right.
Oh, yeah, that's like you're saying, that's a new philosophy among manufacturers. But like I say, their idea isn't people like you and I who are secondary purchasers. We don't go initially, usually, and get new units. We're the second buyers, and they don't cater to us. They cater to the people who will initially buy it, realize that it's going to fail after a certain amount of uses, and get rid of it to people like us. So they're being loyal to their loyal buyers, or at least catering to them.
Mm-hmm. And not one American manufacturer is in the top 9 or 10 in terms of reliability, as far as I can tell, doing some internet research. It's the Asian vehicle manufacturers that are in the top 10. And Mercedes is in the middle of the pack. They're not in the top 10 either. Neither is BMW. And Porsche is at the bottom. Charles in Ohio is with us. Charles, efficiency. What can we do to improve the efficiency of our automobiles? We want to get more miles per gallon. What do we do?
Oh, there's so much that can be done, but I go back to 3 main points to start anybody, and the thing is they're simple, they're fairly easy to do, there can be some drawbacks, you got to be aware of what's going on, but just to get a 50% improvement in fuel mileage, to go from that 15 miles per gallon to 21 on a cruise, depending on what application you talk about, city mileage and highway mileage, 2 different things. But what I always recommend is water or vapor injection, a fuel expander, and that's basically just a little heater for the fuel, and auxiliary air. I'm talking about a carbureted vehicle right now, and these things will apply to a fuel-injected vehicle also, but it just like Vincent said, you need the book. For starters, if you're not familiar with it. If you're familiar with it, you may already have a skill set. There are fixed relationships in fuel-injected vehicles that can be taken advantage of because it's just a dumb computer. It doesn't know when you put water injection or a vapor injection on it, and so it can't compensate. It's basically told from the factory how much fuel for every mile you're going to be putting in that car. It's measuring it in the ratio to the air consumed. And every point brings me to 5 different directions I want to split. So I apologize if I get off a track, but I just like to say it just brings to mind and ties in what the previous guest was talking about, the wash machine with the circuit board in it and the computer control. They're trying to set up that 5G network with internet over power line so they can monitor and know everything we do every minute of the day. They don't want to know when our heat's on, when our refrigerator door is open, when our range is on, and even things like when we flush our toilet. But although it's frightening looking at what's coming towards us, a little bit of knowledge could be of a big help with that 5G. And that's why I like the idea of an electric car, but I don't like the idea of an area like Florida that might be hit by a hurricane and everybody plugging in for a charge before they hit the road. It just doesn't make sense. And plus, every time you convert energy from gasoline or coal into electricity, or from gasoline in to move your car, there's a loss every time in our current conventional physics, and that can't be prevented. It might be small, but you're losing there. And so for them to say them controlling and generating our power for our absolute best solution, I'd say there's no way that will work in every case. And there was an interesting article about 6 months ago, I can't say for sure right now, in Hot Rod magazine. And this is going to the car part and aftermarket part situation. But it was showing how innovator, inventor, a smart guy took a compressor and he turned it into a gasoline engine. And he, along with some other things he's done and demonstrated, he showed how he could take J.B. Weld and manufacture a piston for an internal combustion engine. And the point of this is that the 3D printers that are going to arrive here pretty soon. And I bring this back to the point that General Motors and Ford deciding to change the way they relate to the marketplace, and the thinning down of parts and just their philosophy of the companies themselves. I think they know what's coming at us. Materials like J.B. Weld, similar to that, can be placed into a 3D printer, and parts manufacturers and auto parts stores in the near future will be printing parts on site. So manufacturers are going to be more they're looking at what's coming at us, and they realize, because like the guns, they think individuals may be able to print at home. It's the same thing with auto parts. You're talking about hard, durable goods. Just turning on your printer, downloading some software, and being able to manufacture them at home. And when the manufacturers see that that's available because a big part of the new cars, the reason you see new cars every year is it's just human nature. We're not content with last year's model, but the thing is, every time model, they can make a set of parts for it. They start manufacturing fenders, alternators, heater cores, brakes. They change everything to keep themselves in the loop because the aftermarket steps in very quickly, starts making these parts at a steep discount. And I can see where the manufacturers can get upset about this because they take time, resource to make these innovative new products, and somebody steps in and undercuts them. I can understand why they're angry, but it's the American way. We seek out we're gonna try and save a buck if we get our car fixed.
You mentioned J.B. Weld. Back in 1970, I was behind the counter at an independent auto parts store. I was working there during my high school years, after school. And a salesman came in with a glass Pepsi bottle. And glued to this glass Pepsi bottle was a metal clothes hook. And he said, take a look at this. Try to get this off. It was a big hit because we had never seen anything like that before. You couldn't glue metal to glass before that. It didn't happen. But J.B. Weld could, and it worked. And I've seen J.B. Weld used to put together a cracked aluminum oil pan or crankcase pan on a Porsche that hit, some kind of something in the road where it tore a hole in a cast aluminum finned oil pan. J.B. welded back together, this tube of epoxy type glue. Amazing stuff. And you're absolutely right. With that kind of a substance, that kind of a material, we can make all kinds of parts. I remember that the guys at John Deere broke one of my hydraulic cylinders, and through carelessness. And they said, well, we're welding it, and we just have to let it cure. And I said, what are you talking about, let it cure? You're welding it? When you weld it, as soon as you turn off the torch or the MIG welder or the gas welder, it's done. There's no curing. What I found out was they were going to J.B. weld a cast iron part on my hydraulic cylinder, without letting me know that they destroyed it. Well, they didn't get away with it. They had to give me a new one for free. But the point is, it really is pretty tough stuff. And I think you really have something here about printing car parts, like water pump housings, cylinder heads. I don't know about valves. I think that might be a little tough, printing a valve, a hardened valve that can withstand 1,600 degrees, 1,800 degrees. I think that might be tough with a printer. But for the cast parts, yeah, makes a lot of sense to me.
Absolutely. There's a big future involved here, and complex parts, the expense won't be worth it immediately at times, but for smaller things, we'll be seeing them here in a not too distant future, and material science always advances. There's also DevCon, which is used for, you were mentioning about, that brings in four other things to mind quickly, but I wanted to speak and I wanted to clarify some things for people. Anyone who was looking for a closed fuel system like I speak of, the first thing you'll come up on in definitions if you're researching on the Internet will be a closed-loop fuel system, which is to do with electronic engine control, where it closes the loop by taking information from the exhaust and using it to correct the intake. In an open-loop fuel system for that in fuel injection is where it just takes atmospheric temperatures and pressures and determines the amount of fuel. It's the more accurate is the closed loop. But the closed loop system I speak of is it's right there when you type it in, but you got to know what you're looking for. You're looking for a system that takes the working fluid and reuses it. It closes off the oxygen, and closed-loop fuel systems aren't generally 100% all of the time. One place closed-loop systems are used, again, is in submarines where they are researching and trying to get them to work. And they've been trying for a long time to get a really reliable system, and I have at least one patent from the U.S. Navy where they set up and demonstrated they could do it. Well, the Soviets had a submarine that used that system, and other people have researched, and I've seen one system, closed diesel system, and I'm talking about closed-loop systems for power generation, transportation, and on trucks and light vehicles, gasoline and diesel. I've acquired patents from the patent office where people have demonstrated they can use this system on all of those. And the systems aren't exactly the same, but they're generally the same. You could start it up with atmospheric air or an exotic gas, and then once running, it remains running, and you close the system.
What you're talking about is once you get this engine running, you will not have to add very much fuel to keep it running. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Charles, in the conventional gasoline engine, 4-cycle engine or 4-stroke engine, typically the ideal ratio of gasoline to air would be 14.7 pounds of air to 1 pound of gasoline. And gasoline is a mixture of chemicals and hydrocarbons, and not all the molecules are the same size. They're not all the same weight. They don't all volatilize at the same point in time. And what happens is we have incomplete combustion. So coming out of our tailpipe, if we did not have a catalytic converter, would be unburned fuel, because we can't seem to figure out how to make these engines burn 100% of the fuel. So approaches to have more oxygen actually have an excess, a small excess of oxygen inside the combustion chamber. That idea is to burn more and more of the fuel. And one way of doing that is with a turbocharger. Another way is with a supercharger. What do you think is the best approach for us to improve the efficiency, the most easy to do, that would actually work? What would that be, Charles?
Very good. You put that very well, and that is the thing, what's best for us, and that is something individuals have to determine. But if we're talking about low-hanging fruit, what's easy to get, I'd say the easiest thing is, again, a vapor injection system to introduce to humidify the intake air. And what we're doing is charge forming. And in that little intro, hit on several important facts. The devil is always in the detail. The Smokey Unick made a fuel-saving system, and what he used was superheated air to completely vaporize the gasoline. And completely vaporizing, although a very good idea, he used a supercharger, he called it a homogenizer, to put the pressure so that it would maintain at least the same volume of air passing through that engine, because the engine is only one thing. It's the air passing through it that equals the power coming out of it. So smaller engines can be made into larger engines by supercharging or turbocharging, because it forces more air into that engine. Well, Thomas Ogle, who also made a fuel saver, he used a slightly different idea. They ran along the same lines, but it's different. What he did a distillation process. He took the gallon of gasoline you were talking about, but he did something a little novel, and don't get me wrong, they run parallel, but there are subtle differences. He didn't completely vaporize the gasoline. He removed a portion of the gasoline. See, that gasoline you're just talking about that you stated is not one homogeneous thing. There's a formula for isooctane as 8 and 16 are the ratios of carbon and hydrogen. It's about a 2-to-1 ratio. But the thing he did, he took that tank of gasoline and he removed the lighter aromatic elements, and he used those to power the vehicle for greatly extended mileage. Now, when you do that, I'd say that it's not completely suitable for rapid acceleration that you get with denser fuels. But it's still absolutely usable and greatly extends the range of the vehicle.
Well, that's an interesting point, because a taxi cab with stop and go has different requirements for torque. and horsepower than an over-the-road truck or a railroad locomotive. So what we really need to do is focus on exactly what we're trying to accomplish and then tune our build design for that application. You're absolutely right. Everyone all set? Cocked, locked, hour number 2 of USA Prepares. Joe Esposito is with us. His website, StopSmartMetersInOklahoma.org. StopSmartMetersInOklahoma.org. Welcome, Joe.
Hey, good morning, class. How are you? How you been?
Really well. I've got to ask you, Joe. You've had your electricity turned off for 66 days.
Correct.
What happened? What happened?
My wife went crazy. My daughter went crazy. I went crazy because, we're kind of hooked on the electricity these days. But
We are.
Remember the Boy Scouts motto, be prepared, right?
Yes.
I was a Boy Scout, so I knew how to do all that stuff. We got a generator. We ran a generator for, I don't know, those weeks or months, 5 gallons of gas a day to keep them running. We kept the freezers up, and we turn them off. We try to be, appreciative of the neighbors, and so at 10 o'clock we shut the generators off, and that went on for quite a long time. And then our neighbor to the north got a little upset, so we had to cut the generator off, so we lost everything in the refrigerators and freezer. And we went to a smaller generator, so we ran one little hot plate and one light bulb. We had chickens. We had 30 chickens back then. And so we just went to bed with the chickens. It wasn't that bad. It was during the spring and early months, so it wasn't cold. So we were able to survive, yeah.
Joe, as I was listening to you, I have to tell you that if my neighbors had complained, I'll tell you what, I would give them, in my case, the CEO's name is Mark Rocker of Laclede Electric Cooperative. I would say, well, here's his number. Give him a call, and if we can get this resolved, then you won't have to bear the noise. Okay.
Right. But remember now, we live on 2.5 acres. It wasn't like 10 feet apart, the houses. So, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah. Well, what I would do is I would turn my neighbors who were angry with me for the noise, I would turn them into guerrilla warriors and say, well, tell you what, why don't you all get in the bus and go see Mark Rocker at Laclede Electric in Lebanon, Missouri, and tell him what you think.
Exactly.
Here's his address. That's what I would do.
Right.
And I'm
right.
Mark Rocker has declared war on me because I have sent in my petition with 16 names on it. They found 15 of them that were correct. One guy, I guess, didn't put the correct address down on my petition. I needed 15. I had 15. And he said I sent him in too early, and now he's having his attorney and the board of directors review the bylaws of the corporation to see what they're going to do about me sending him in early, because there's no mention about early. What I'm telling you, class, is these people do not want us to reduce your electric bill. They do not want us to have an option to get these smart meters removed. They don't want this. They want total control of us. Total control of us. And I think what you just heard Joe Esposito say is life wasn't all that comfortable, and it wasn't in the winter yet, and he was living on five gallons of gasoline a day, which at $3 a gallon, it depends on when you had your outage.
It was pretty high back then, yeah.
Yeah, it's extremely expensive to generate your own electricity. I mean, if you're using a generator, the least I have ever seen in my personal experience is a generator that we have. It's a 2-cylinder diesel generator. It's military surplus. It's model MEP-002A. It's a 5 kW. It burns about a half a gallon of diesel an hour. half a gallon an hour.
Yeah.
So what you're hearing Joe say was I guess you started and stopped your generator so that you could run your appliances and then shut them down, do what you need to do with the generator on, and power off and power on, and it was probably a full-time job just living, right?
Exactly. That's what it turned into, right?
Mm-hmm. And class, Joe said it so well. He was a Boy Scout, and this is in the good times. This is before the EMP. This is when everything's working. He didn't have electricity. And why did they shut it off, Joe?
Say it again.
Why did they shut your power off?
Well, remember they came and they said they were going to, Owasso, the town that I'm not in the city limits. I'm outside the city limits in the county, Tulsa County. And they said, we're going to do a pilot for Oklahoma. And I said, I don't want to be part of your pilot. They told me my wife would have to get up and do the laundry at 4 o'clock in the morning. I said, I'm not telling her that. You tell her. And so I came home one night, and there was a smart meter on my house. And back, 2012, not many people had much information on what was happening. And so that November 7th, 2012, that was my wake-up call. Dr. Dietrich Klinghardt, 43-minute YouTube. Smart meters and the health crisis of our time, EMRs and smart meters. And I listened to that, and I just went crazy about what they did to me. I just learned for the first time from him what was happening. And so I got on the Internet for 3 days and 3 nights and learned what was going on. So after that, I started doing some things, and I started getting better immediately, protecting myself. So my electrician friend, certified electrician, we're trying to figure out what to do then. And he said, well, let's go down to the city of Tulsa, because I lived in Tulsa County, and apply for a permit to take it off. And so that's what we did. We went down and applied it, and we got the permit. It's still out on the box. It's faded. It's a green permit. And so we went and got it. And I bought a meter from Minivan Jack. It was out in California, and brand new analog meter, and he sent it, and it was only like, some paperwork, and the meter was like, $60 or $80. And so we got it, and we put it on. And so then the city inspector came out and said, yep, everything's right, good, I'll call the PSO to come out and put their little security lock on it, So, it tells if people have tampered with it. So the guy, that guy came out, and he went ballistic. And the next day, I got an overnighted letter from Joanne Stevenson, their lawyer in Oklahoma City, said either you put this back on or we're going to turn your power off. Well, we didn't put it back on, the meter, the smart meter, which we sent back, certified mail to the utility. We didn't damage it or do anything to it. And so they came out in a few days, and I went out and videotaped them, and while they're doing it, and they cut our power. And so that's why we went 66 days until we got an attorney and had to go to court with them. So that's why they had to crush me, because I was the first.
Right. Now, when you got your electricity enabled again or turned back on, did they put it on with a smart meter or with an analog meter?
Well, that's why we went to court. I'd learned that you don't want those on your house. At all costs, you have to get them off the house. And there's people here paying anywhere from $3,000 to $10,000 to get them off the house, because distance is your friend. And so we went to court. The PSO attorney misrepresented the science and what's happening. And so the judge, because it's the big corporation and everything, kind of went along with what was being said. And so she finally said, well, Mr. Esposito, if you want power, we'll put the meter off the property. So it was 92 feet off my property to the east of my bedroom, which was 8 feet from the head of our bed. And so we had to pay $1,100 to get that meter off. And there's what they call a pedestal. It's just about 4 or 5 feet high. And they put it on that pedestal out there. And we aimed it away from my house. They're like guns, so he aimed it away from my house. And what was kind of aside to it all, the attorney didn't even know what directions he was talking about, so he said they would put it to the south of my neighbors. Well, that was another 300 feet south. And when I brought that up, they said, we can't do that because of the engineering, this, and that. So it's just a game with these guys.
All right, let me ask you this. What about these meters that have an antenna hanging down, which collect the signals from other meters? Let's say you have about 10 neighbors. It's kind of a mesh network, right?
Right,
where
there's a collector meter, maybe.
A collector meter, yes, where your meter may get all the information from the other meters because they're all talking to each other, or the ones that can hear or see or reach each other. They're talking to each other, transmitting. And then the collector meter then forwards that information from all the meters to whatever tower is receiving them. And that can be 10 miles away, right?
Right, yeah. I think our system, I think there's different systems. I know a collector meter will go 125 miles, but there's I'm sorry, I'm going to forget the name of the meter, but the neighborhoods all have like the mesh network, and then they out on the road at our house, you can see them. They hang down from they're by the power lines there, and they collect the information, and then they send it to wherever, like you said, tower or whatever they're going to send it to. Right.
All right. Well, okay. The people who have these collector meters that are receiving the information and communicating with all their neighbors' meters, the electric company is not paying for the location for setting up their transmission station on your property. Is there a way you can stop them or charge them? Class, Joe Esposito's with us. StopSmartMetersInOklahoma.org. I suggest you go to his website. All right, so Joe, we have the smart meters in a neighborhood, and then we have the collector meters. And the collector meters collect the information from all the other smart meters that it can reach, and then sends that information onto the tower. How do we stop the collector meters from being deployed on our house? Or if they have been, how do we get them off our house?
Okay, can I just enter just a point of information, please? They need to go to they need to go to YouTube and punch in Joe Esposito Smart Meters Owasso, and that way they'll get to me quicker. I don't have a site up right now because I've been down. Just to let you guys know. Okay, back to the collector meters. This is very interesting. There's a guy named Bill Bathgate. He's got like 40, 50 years in the technology. He takes smart meters apart like toys. He's done several reports on smart meters. The public doesn't even know. They're paying like $158 a year, their money, to run those meters. Nobody told them that. Bill Bathgate tells you that. Okay, so now if you have a meter on your house, there's not really any way to stop them because you don't even know you have it. That's the problem. Most people don't even know they have a smart meter on their house. That's another huge problem. So, that's what we're all about. We're trying to help the class and the public understand that they're out there, they're dangerous, and they put these things on, without any science. They just did it to us. All wireless is that way. It's being done to us. And so it's hard to stop them because we don't know they're there. And then if you did stop them, like we have people say that they'll go out and try to stop their smart meter from transmitting, and some of them have done a pretty good job of it. But then the utility is going to show up in a day or two and try to find out why they're not receiving a signal from their smart meters. And so that's another problem. And that's why we advise, I do and others, that if you have a smart meter on your house, you need to get it off immediately. If it's in your bedroom, you need to get out of the bedroom and not go back into that bedroom until you've done something to that meter. Get it off the house. And that's what we try to get people to do, because you want to, if say like most meters, on the other side of the meter is a breaker box. If you turn that breaker box off, it cuts all the electricity off to your house. But that smart meter's still running out there. And like I've been places where we would go look at houses for sale, and we were walking through houses, and I have my meter that I read the radiation with. As you walk through the house, you can read that meter transmitting all the way through the house. Those meters are made to come into your house and read the appliances. There's two transmitters, 900 megahertz, and then there's the 2.4 gigahertz of Zigbees, which is the same frequency as your microwave oven. Only microwave ovens are continuous wave and smart meters are pulse. So, what they're doing to us is really genocide here. This has never been done in the history of the world. This is involuntary human experimentation. This is a criminal assault against us, the public. And so the class needs to understand this is serious business, that's happening right now. And then, they're pushing 5G on us. It's coming too, on top of all this. And it's going to be much worse because that's millimeter radiation. So it's hard to deal with it, Vince, if they don't know it's there.
Okay, if they do know it's there, is there a way? So, for example, let's say someone has a smart meter, collector type meter. Can they build a metal ring? For example, I have a barn that has metal roofing,
right.
And the sheets are about 12 feet long.
Right.
Can I build a cylinder around my smart meter that's on a pedestal out in the field? Can I just build a hula hoop kind of a thing, but it goes 12 feet in the air and just install that? Joe Esposito's with us. Joe, several years ago, I failed in stopping the smart meter from being installed on our farmhouse. And so I called up the utility company. I was just livid. And I said, I want this thing removed. I want my old meter back. They said, we can't do it. I said, why? They said, well, we don't have them anymore. I said, what? He said, we got rid of them. We crushed them. I said, you crushed all those old meters that worked, all of them? They were all working, and you crushed them. They spent over $5 million to install smart meters and to get rid of the meter readers, the guys that would look up and down and see tree limbs, and they could say, you know what, we got to trim some limbs and, make sure the wires don't get pulled down by storms and things. They got rid of all of them in favor of these smart meters, and it's to make our lives better, allegedly, but it's, of course, it's nonsense. Well, so I called the utility company. I said, well, I want it removed. They said, you can't, we don't have any more left. And I said, well, that's okay. I have one. I bought one. I bought it on eBay. I bought it. It's the same meter that you took off. It's exactly the same meter. Same make, same model, same everything. And what did he say? The chief engineer says to me, how do we know it's accurate? And I said, that's a really good point. How do I know your smart meter's accurate? Right? How do I know? I don't know. But he wouldn't take my old analog meter that came from somebody that they ripped it off their house, and it was available for $25, shipping included, on eBay. Now, I want the analog meter. I do not want the smart meter. So I'm going to experiment. I'm going to protect this pedestal, and I happen to have one of these collector transmitters, and I'm livid about it. So one of the things I was thinking about doing is sending a certified letter to Mark Rocker, the CEO. He's the accountant. He's the bean counter. He's the guy that's killing us with this electromagnetic radiation without our permission and without our knowledge. So I'm thinking of charging him for his transmitter on my farm, like $1,000 an hour. Do you think that would gain any traction?
Oh, absolutely. Let me just back up a second, though, now. If we're going to try to wrap that meter with, like you said, some sheeting, then we need to have one of those meters that I have, an HFE 35C. Because remember, I tried to protect a lady north of Edmond, and I had to use 2 plates of 1/4-inch plate steel, and it was even burning through that. So when you go out to wrap it, you want to make sure that you've stopped it from going horizontal if you want it to go vertical, and make sure when you wrap it that you read it to see if you've stopped it, okay?
Right.
That's
right.
important to know. And people, when people say start doing surveying their homes for all this radiation, they really need to have a detector meter like I have, an HFE 35C, because you try to fix something and do something, you don't know that you've done it unless you can read it.
That's a really good point. I'm going to call the manufacturer and see if they would like to do a project with me where they would lend me one of those meters, and I'll do some testing, and I'll report those results on YouTube as to exactly what happened.
Right. That's what we need to do, right?
Yeah. So I will contact the manufacturer.
Right.
See what we can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to keep it. I just want to borrow it.
Right.
But I think, if we can gain traction by, I don't know, maybe we need to sue the board of directors individually, okay? Even if we don't prevail, I think it'd be worth our time to sue them individually. I think suing the CEO and getting their name out there, like, Vin Finelli sues Guineith Electric Cooperative directors individually.
Yeah,
because I can't.
Here in Tulsa, it's Stuart Solomon. He's the CEO. He's the guy that is damaging all these people. You need to get their name out there. You need to show the public what's happening here.
Yeah, we need to name them and use their names as keywords, find out their home addresses, take pictures of their houses, say this is where Mark Rocker lives, this is a picture of him, this is how much money he makes. I can't figure out how much money he makes because I asked him, and he will not tell me. He won't tell me how much. He won't tell me, I want to know how much the attorneys make. I want to know, as a candidate for the board, I want to know. They won't tell me because they know I'll expose them.
Well, and then see how much money they're spending on going to the state capitol and trying to get all these legislators to go along with what they want to do.
Right. Well, I like the idea of protecting my smart meter out in the field. I don't want the cows brushing up against it.
And they do that. Cows rub on everything.
I know. And, 1,000, 1,100 pounds a piece, they can bend that thing over and just by scratching on it.
Yeah,
they don't know.
Electrocute it and kill your cow.
Yeah. Well, they've declared war on me. Guineith Electric Cooperative has declared war on me. And your electric company has declared war on you. It's just that
Correct.
You don't know it.
Correct. I got a call last night from Anchorage, Alaska. This lady, they're putting meters on right now up there, and she's beside herself. I get calls from all over the country. People are getting sick. From the time they put the meters on, that's when they can connect it to. But all over the country, people are calling. And, they've declared war on us. That's what they've done. It's criminal assault was what's going on here. And so, the public needs to stand up. And I tell this lady in Anchorage, she's on Facebook. I said, if you can get enough neighbors to stand up with you, then to come against that utility, then do it. Because they take us down one at a time. That's their game. That's what they do. But when you get a group of people together and stand up to them, it's a little bit harder to take them down. Yeah,
just take a page out of what's happening with the Yellow Jackets in Paris class. Take a page out of their book. They are rioting in the streets over gasoline taxes. We need to get our message out. I'm not saying burn down people's businesses. But you know what? If we all showed up at Mark Rocker's house, the CEO of Guineith Electric, just to say hi, visit him, let him know that we'd like these smart meters removed from our houses. And, we plan on coming back, to visit him every once in a while and give him an update as to how well his company's doing, removing these smart meters, and write letters to the editor and get them published and, make sure that you mention Mark Rocker's name in every letter. You have your own Mark Rocker. I have mine. Right. I have mine. And this guy, Mark Rocker, I have a bona fide petition with all the signatures necessary to run for the board. and he won't give me clearance to run for the board because he says he has to review with the board of directors what their intent was. Well, I'll just read it. Here's what it says. I'm going to read this.
Okay.
Mark Rocker, I'm coming after you. I want you fired. Okay, so in the bylaws, it says, Section 5, nominations. This is verbatim. It shall be the duty of the board of directors to appoint a committee on nominations consisting of not less than 5 nor more than 11 members, who shall be selected from each of the districts of the project area so as to ensure equitable representation. No member of the board of directors may serve on such committee. The committee, keeping in mind the principle of geographical representation, shall prepare and post a print at the principal office of the cooperative at least 60 days before the meeting, a list of the nominations for directors. But any 15 or more members acting together may make other nominations by petition not less than 45 days prior to the meeting, and the secretary shall post such nominations at the place where the list of nominations is made by the committee is posted. Now, what that says is you have to have your nomination in by 45 days prior to the annual meeting. Well, mine's way before 45 days, but they say that's kind of early. And now they want to know what the directors meant by not less than 45 days. What about too early? Now they've got their attorney, the Laclede Electric corporate attorney, on this. And how long is it going to take him to understand the English language? This is the kind of nonsense that is stopping we, the villagers, from the assault, the criminal attack with electromagnetic radiation by guys like Mark Rocker.
That's right. You got it. That's what they do.
Okay. Well, here and now, I'm making a public statement. I want him fired, and the entire top brass of Laclede Electric and the entire board of directors, starting now.
That's great. I'm all for you, buddy. I'm for the rule of law. So I mean, if you show up at his place, that's fine. I don't think there's no laws against that.
Well, I can stop outside his house.
Absolutely.
I can pull over in front of his house. I can check my oil, make sure my engine's okay. I can do that. Check my lights. All the stuff that I might want to do just to make sure everybody's safe. As I travel down the road. Look. These guys dress in these $1,000 suits. They are protected by a wall of lawyers. They built themselves the Taj Mahal. This electric cooperative is an extravagance. The building is huge. They have their own campus. It's, they're not living shabbily. This building is really, really deluxe. On your dime, class, and they drive new trucks.
Oh, all the time.
When you see an electric utility vehicle, it's brand new. And what do these things cost? About $250,000 a pop.
Yep.
And one guy can't operate them. And one truck can't show up by itself. They have a mesh network of trucks. When they come to your place to do something, there's a whole bunch of people.
That's what they do. You got it right.
Am I making that up? How many guys came to help you with your smart meter?
Say it again.
How many trucks, how many people showed up at your place?
At least 2, if not 4.
How many trucks?
When they came to... put the pedestal in, I think there had to be 4 to 6 of them out there putting it in. It was amazing.
Now, a pedestal. Let me tell you what a pedestal is. We have one here at the farm. It's about 6 feet long. They dig a hole about 2 feet deep.
Correct.
It sticks up about 4 feet out of the ground and has a meter on it.
Correct.
One guy can easily lift it. Easily. But it takes 3 or 4 trucks with 2 guys in each one. And then a supervisor has to come out and just make sure everybody's working. I'm really frustrated, class. So I looked up Mark Rocker, M-A-R-C, last name R-O-E-C-K-E-R. And he is the CEO of Laclede Electric Cooperative. His phone number is 417-532-3160. 417-532-3160. If you'd like to call him, go ahead. Tell him whatever you think. Ask him whatever you want to ask him. But according to Bloomberg.com, board members membership. There's no board members membership data available for Mark Rocker. Education. There is no education data available for Mark Rocker. Other affiliations. There's no company affiliations data available. Annual compensation. There is no annual compensation data available. Stock options. There's no stock options data available. Total compensation. There is no total compensation data available. That's what Bloomberg says verbatim about the CEO, the bean counter, the accountant, who is now running the show at Liquid Electric, who is preventing me from fully running for the board of directors of the Liquid Electric. He's got to get the attorney involved because I submitted my petition too early. And I asked them for the nominating committee. Who are they? How do I contact them? Well, they won't be formed until the spring. They are doing everything they can to prevent me from getting on the board because they know that I've got a problem with smart meters, I've got a problem with the electric rates, and I've got a problem with their salaries. I think they're overcompensated. I think they could do a lot better with a lot less revenue from we, the electric cooperative members. They say we own the company, but it's not true. If we owned it, we would have what?
That's baloney.
Correct.
You're right on, Vince. I mean, you're just right on. What you're saying, that's exactly what they do. You know, we tried to get to the board of directors. We couldn't even get to them. We can't even talk to them. The people that are supposed to have access to the board of your area, they, have each director is in charge of a certain area. You can't even get to talk to them.
Right. Well, there are a bunch of in our area. There are a bunch of guys and there's one gal, and they get up on stage and tell you why you should vote for them, and they'll say things like, "Well, I had my honeymoon down at the lake. It was wonderful. Me and my husband, we had a wonderful time. Thank you so much. I'm learning a lot. I'm going to classes. I'm learning about how to do my job here. Appreciate your vote for re-election. Thank you very much." And she wins. And then another guy gets up and he says, "Well, I was born here. My mom was from here. I'm from here. My mom was from here. Did I tell you I'm from here? Appreciate your vote for re-election. Thank you very much." And he wins.
Yeah. Let me just share this real quick little story. I'll just take a minute. They were going after a couple in Coweta that didn't want the smart meter thing. So they came out to the right-of-way, and this guy was almost making the ratepayer's wife cry. So they called me. I made an appointment. I think it was with Julie Grant. She's the kind of front person for PSO. They came out. I brought my video guy out. They wouldn't even get out of the truck until I got rid of me and the video guy. They don't want to be videotaped, Vince.
Right. They do not want fame. Class, that's the name of the game, okay? They do not want to be exposed. And they come en masse, just like the police. When the police come, it's not just one guy. It's a bunch of cars because, they need to make sure everybody's safe. Well, same thing with these electric utility people. They come en masse, not just one car. They're a bunch of weak people. They don't want you to know who they are. So what we need to do is find out where they live, start writing on our blogs, posts, web pages, so that when you type in a name like Mark Rocker, Roecker, you'll see a picture of his house, his children, where his children go to school, a picture of his wife, where she works, all that stuff. And then when you go to church, you need to point them out. Point at him. Say, that's him. That's Mark Rocker. He's the CEO. He's the guy that is killing us with smart meters. He's the guy that's in charge of raising our electric rates. That's him. That's his wife. Those are his children. That's him. That's his wife. Hey, you know where he lives? Follow me. I'll show you where he lives. That's the kind of stuff we need to do, class. Any final comments, Joe, in 10 seconds?
No, you're doing a good job. You're right on what you're saying about these boards, though. You're right on. I appreciate you. Thank you.
This is 102 in the series of smart meters. Joe will be back again and again.